Can you believe the year is almost over? I literally don't know what to do with myself. I feel like the year flew by, but we have some really good stats to go over. As it is the end of the year, this is my first year I had a Goodreads account. So obviously, if this is the first year I had a Goodreads account, this is the first year I made a Goodreads goal and I completed it. Yeah, the first time. One take gang, yeah. I said I was gonna read 52 books for the year. As of right now, as I'm talking to you right now, your girl's read 53. We'll see how many other books I can read before the end of the year, but I'm really proud of myself. This is the most books I've read in my entire life in a single year. 53 books in one calendar year? That's insane. Now I know, other bigger YouTubers read like 100 or almost 200, and that's incredible. I just don't think I have that in me. At least not yet. Maybe one day I can, but I'm just personally really proud of myself for being able to not only stick to something that I said I was gonna do, which was read 52 books this year, which was completely daunting. I didn't know how that was gonna work, but I did it. Nuts. So I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of us. So no matter what your reading goal was, if you made it or not, if you read a single book this year, you need to be proud of yourself. And if you weren't able to read a book, that's okay, because we've got next year. So don't beat yourself up. I'm so happy that you're here and I'm proud of you. If you're not proud of you, I'm proud of you. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk about my 5 top books from 2023. And we read 53, so we got a lot to choose from. But after thinking about it, after going through my Goodreads, I do have a solid 5 books here that I want to go over that made a huge impact on me. And I also have 3 honorable mentions. So let's get into it. But first, let's thank today's sponsor, which is Flexy Spot. They sent me this beautiful desk, and yes, this is sponsored, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I've had this thing for a few weeks now, and I am absolutely obsessed. It is so cool. It is the perfect thing you need if you study at home, or if you work from home, or if you're just constantly sitting down. Sitting down is so bad for you if you're doing it consistently, and so I've wanted a standing desk for a while. Now with this one, you have 4 different memory buttons. I already used 2, so one for my sitting position, as well as one for my standing position, but then you have 2 other options as well. So if you share this desk with someone else, they have that option. Or you can just press the button up. Well, look at that. Or press it back down. Either way, you can do whatever you want. There are also charging ports. So you have 2 USB ports as well as a USB-C, which is so nice. So you don't have to have 1,000 wires around your desk. That's one thing I really hate. And also, there's a little bit of storage here. It's not super deep, but it's enough to put like pens and highlighters and things like that. So it's perfect if you're a student, if you just need something easily accessible. Now, I picked the maple top with the white finish, but they have so many different options on their website. This is the core standing desk with a drawer. So if you want to check it out, please use the link in my description box. So if you want to check it out, or if you need a standing desk, I highly recommend this brand. It is very high quality. It was so easy to build. I literally did this by myself. It only took 8 screws. I will say it is a little heavy, but besides that, everything else was so easy. So again, thank you so much Flexy Spot for sponsoring this portion of the video. If you want to check it out, please use the link in my description box. Now back to the video. I picked each book for a specific reason. So for the first one, they're in no particular order, by the way. The first one was The Silent Patient. I picked this book personally because, man, I have never been on the edge of my seat for the entirety of the book the way I was for The Silent Patient. I don't know what it was. Some people believe that it was kind of slower for them at first, but for me it wasn't. I was just so engulfed in the details. I was really trying to figure it out before the ending. And that ending? I got 20/20 vision. I couldn't see that coming. Like, that was so crazy to me. And this was my first year of my life that I started reading thrillers. And this one was like, man, I loved not only seeing his story unfold, but also the patient's story unfold. And seeing how those 2 stories interlapped or interlapped. That's not a word, is it? Interconnected. I'm sorry, I swear I'm smart. How they interconnected throughout the entire book. just absolutely insane. Now, if you've never heard me talk about this book before, The Silent Patient is basically about a psychotherapist who has devoted his life to helping this one particular patient. So she basically shot her husband, killed him, and then went silent for years. Would not talk to anyone, would not explain why she did it, what her motive was, nothing. She just went completely like catatonic. She would not talk to anyone. So he devoted his life, his skills to helping her and making her open up, as well as solve this mystery, right? And so you're just following that story, that narrative. And man, the twists and turns in this, it was just absolutely so incredible, so well written. It felt like a movie. You know how some books feel like you're in that world, and then when you look up into like the real world and you just have a reality check for a second, you're like, whoa. That's how I felt with this book. Every time I took like a breath or I was about to go to the next chapter, I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I am in this story with him. This is my colleague. I work at this hospital. I'm trying to get this girl to talk. That is how I felt throughout every up and down. I just could not believe it. I was just completely on the edge of my seat the entire time. It wasn't gory or anything like that. It wasn't like scary, graphic or anything, but it was just a psychological thing. And those kind of books, I'm realizing, as I'm reading more books, I'm realizing the psychological thrillers are the ones that really get me on my edge of my seat. Like, it's just so crazy because I overanalyze things already. But when things are intentionally like misconstrued, or you know, you have to look at certain things many different ways to understand, that's when it really gets to me. So this book right here, I was left days after reading this. I just could not stop thinking about it. It was so, so good. After that was the Cerulean Sea, the house on the Cerulean Sea. This book right here, she was a little slow at first, I'm not gonna lie. At first I was like, man, this is okay. This is an alright story, right? Where are we going here? But once the plot thickened, she was thick the whole way through. Pause. I'm just saying, it was amazing. This story made me cry so many different times. I was left awestruck. And just thinking about life, thinking about all the analogies it was trying to play at, and just societal injustices. It was just so good. The story follows Linus Baker. He's basically a caseworker in this magical world, and he's supposed to look after the facilities where magical youth are placed, right? He has to make sure that they're up to code, that they're following the rules and regulations. He's a huge stickler for rules. And so he goes around looking at these different places day in and day out. He has no personal life. He doesn't do anything fun. He literally clocks into work, clocks out, and goes home every single day. He's an older gentleman too. He's not traditionally attractive either. He just feels like he's existing. He's not living life until he is assigned a very, very special house in the Cerulean Sea, and he has to look after the worst of the worst children, quote unquote, the worst of the worst children, right? And so he does that, and it just follows that story of how, like, you can't judge a book by its cover type of thing, and how the worst of the worst are actually just really good children. They're just misunderstood because they're not like the majority. They're a minority in society. And just following that narrative and just hearing each child's story and just how they were broken, but how the person that's taking care of them helped them heal themselves, and how they became like a family unit. I'm about to cry just talking about it. Like, it was literally the best parts of humanity summed up, basically. That's how I'll leave that book. I was so happy I found this book. And he also wrote another book. TJ Klune also wrote Under the Whispering Door. And that is a book I definitely want to get to in 2024, just because this book just left me with so many warm and happy feelings and just made me believe in humanity again. Even though it's a book, just to know that other people think and feel the same way that I do was really heartwarming and encouraging, and makes you feel like there's hope for the future. You already know what's up next. I already know what you're gonna say. I know this book has had me in a literal like chokehold since I read it. And I won't ever let you guys hear the end of it, so you know what was going to be in this video. Listen here, I don't care. I'm talking about it again. This book right here, we are one. You can't have me without her. You can't have her without me. So take it or leave it. Like and subscribe. This is a package deal here, okay? This book here, I don't know why it got to me the way that it did. But this was such an incredible story for me. I think because I related to her, not to trauma dump, but I had like a very tumultuous childhood, therapy. But she did too, but like in a very extreme way. And just the way that she went around society, she went into the world, and how she was able to finally be vulnerable and lean on people. It was just so good to me. Now this book, maybe I should give some disclaimers. This book is very heavy, but in the lightest way. I don't know, the way that Gail Honeyman wrote this, it's kind of how some people talk about their trauma. And when I say some people, I do mean me. It was just very lighthearted and funny, but also like, no, I'm actually dying, like I actually need assistance. It was very like that. But if you don't already know, this story is about Miss Eleanor. Eleanor, she is a single young woman. She goes to work, goes home. She's kind of like Linus in that way. She has no life. She has no social life. But she has this huge scar on her face, and it was from a fire. And you don't really get to hear much about it until throughout the book. They kind of give you little hints throughout the book about what happened to her in her childhood. And she speaks to her mom once a week, sometimes twice a week. And her mom is just really nasty, really heinous. And it's just like not a good person in her life. But she's not ready to let go of her mother. And it's kind of the only social interaction she has for a while, until she meets someone at her job. And this angel here, what was his name again? Raven. He wanted nothing else from her but for her to be happy and to just be there. He was just like a silent angel. Even when she didn't want him around, he was always there, and she slowly got to open herself up and to have a genuine friend, like a friend in the truest form of the word. And that allowed her to believe in people again, to open up about what happened to her when she was a child, and to finally get the help that she needed. But even though that is the storyline, they do it in such a funny and lighthearted way, so that like, it's kind of like if you've ever been to therapy, or if you've ever been told that you need therapy but you're scared to go. It's like a very lighthearted way to do it. It's like having your medicine with sugar type of thing. And the way that they did this, the way that this author did this, was just so well done, in my opinion. It leaves you thinking about your own life if you've ever been through something. You know what it felt like? I'm sorry, it's just so hard to explain. But basically, this book felt like if you had a traumatic childhood, at least for me personally, maybe this is why this book hit me so hard, it felt like someone was holding my hand. It felt like I forgot how to walk and someone was holding my hand. Or I was learning how to ride a bike for the first time. Oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna cry. Yeah, but that's how it felt. We're gonna keep it together. It was a judgment-free zone. I got to see someone a little crazier than me go through something so traumatic and deal with it. Deal with all her negative emotions, her self-loathing, her mistreatment, and for her to find the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how much she went through. And that is why I love this girl. I love her so much. Maybe it doesn't make sense to other people. It does have good ratings, so it's not just me. It's not all up in here, okay? But I realized that once I started talking about this book so much, a lot of people just couldn't relate to it. So I think it's either one of those books where you either love it or you hate it type of thing. But for me, it just did something for my inner child. It did something for my inner being. I don't know. I just don't know how to explain it. But this book left such a huge impact on me. I think out of all of these, this is probably number one. Yeah, I think this is my number one book of 2023. It was just so profound for me. I think I just grew as a human being. I'm not the same person I was before I read this book as I am after reading this book. I feel like I even want to read it again next year, but we'll see, because I do have a lot of books that I plan on reading next year. Regardless, this book quite literally changed my life, and it was really, really good. If I made you read it and you didn't like it, I'm sorry, but if I made you read it and you end up loving it, welcome to the club. The fourth book on the list is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now, this book I read in January, and this was my first introduction to Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I've never read any of her books before, but since then I've also read Malibu Rising, which also left me completely in awe of this woman. But basically, this story follows the glamorous life of a Hollywood icon in her later years. And she begins to write a memoir about all her 7 husbands that she had. And she picks this specific journalist for a specific reason because they're kind of interconnected, and you'll see why. And she explains why she married each person as she goes throughout her life and as she goes throughout her fame in Hollywood and things like that, and her tumultuous like relationships, as well as her relationship with fame and money and success, and being a woman in this time, rubbing shoulders with the people that she was rubbing shoulders with. And man, this touched on so many societal issues regarding like women's rights, like having the gall to be ruthless for your goals and certain things, and love, and just that time. It was just so well written, and each turn I did not see coming. I felt like every chapter had something new. And the way that she wrote this, Taylor Jenkins Reid does this thing where she plays with time so well. She can go from the past to the present to the past again in a completely different time, and it all just makes sense, and it just ties the story together perfectly. I feel like you have to be such a skilled author to do something like that. The other author that I've read this year that can do that really well is the author who wrote Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow. She did that very well as well. But I've noticed in the 2 books that I've read from this author, she does that phenomenally. And it just adds another element to the book. And it just was so clever, so well written. I even like tabbed certain things. I have no idea what I tabbed. I haven't seen this in forever. Let's see if I can find a good one. And then she'd also put like news clippings in the story, and then she would explain the news clippings. Just genius. I loved how she wrote this story. So one thing I underlined on page 346 was, I think being yourself, your true self, your entire self, is always going to feel like you're swimming upstream. So many good quotable lines here. Ooh, and another one says, no one goes around throwing caution to the wind unless the wind is blowing their way. Like, she just says things that you already feel as a human being, and these are like feelings you can't put into words, and she just perfectly puts them into words. For me at least, I just felt like someone finally understood me in certain things. And man, this book is so filled with so many quotes like that. Let me see, last one. It's a hard business reconciling with what the truth used to be and what the truth is now. Like, what? Taylor, I am your fan. This book was crazy, very, very good, and I definitely want to read more of her in the future. Okay, we are now on our last book, and this is not like the least book out of all of them. This was not in any particular order, but my last one was Hail Mary. Oh my God, this was so freaking good. Let me just tell you something before we start. I got my brother, who does not read for fun, to read this book, and he could not put it down. I walked into his room multiple times while he was reading this, and he said, oh, I only read like 10 pages a day. Tell me why. I would have walked into his room randomly at the time that he does not read. Usually he'll be watching TV or he'll be working on something. He's like a workaholic. But he was reading this book. That's how good this book is, okay? This book follows an astronaut who wakes up randomly in a spaceship, and he has no idea why he's there. He has no memory of himself, and he's in a room with his other like co-workers, I guess, but they're all like, and he doesn't know why, he doesn't know what's going on, and it just follows that story. And it eventually comes to the realization that like he has to save the world, but he also meets some extraterrestrial being, and you just follow their story. This was so good to me. Now, I will say this. I am a science person. I've always loved science since I was a child. I think science is the only real magic in this world. And this was so science-based, but not in a way where you couldn't follow it. My brother is the complete opposite of me in that way, and he could follow it. He absolutely loved the story. He breaks down everything so clearly in this story, right? But it was just so good, like someone talking about things that I know, that I understand, coming to conclusions and like trying hypotheses and seeing if they work or not. Like, that is my jam. And it was just filled with that, but it was also very humorous and terrifying. Like, I just felt like I was in space with him. We had our astronaut suits on and we were trying to figure this thing out, okay? I was on the computer, he was trying out different equations and stuff. We were together in that spaceship and it was so freaking good. It was scary, it was hilarious, it was shocking. Oh my god, it was just so good. It was so good. This author has also written The Martian, and that is a book that I definitely want to read by the end of next year. I just cannot rave about this enough. It was just so well done. There's no romance in it. He's completely just up in space by himself. But the story, the plot of this, like jaw dropped. Like it was so good. This book left a lasting impact on me, and I will definitely read this more than once. I feel like I want to read it like every other year so I can forget the details and read it again. This book is just, it's coming with me no matter where I go. This and Eleanor Oliphant, they're coming with me, okay? No matter where I live in this world, I'm gonna reread these books, okay? And these are the 5 books that defined my 2023, that made all the duds, all the 1-star, all the 2-star reads worth it, because I found these 5 books. Now, let me know in the comments below, what were the 5 books that changed your life this year? Or just in general, it doesn't have to be in 2023 if you didn't read that many. Just in your life, what books changed your life? Because these books were the cream of the crop this year. Now, before I let you go, I do have 3 honorable mentions. They didn't make the top 5 list, but they were pretty darn close. Number 1 is Frankenstein. Man, this is the original by Mary Shelley, the 1800 version, okay? This one was so good. This was my very first time reading Frankenstein, and I loved it because I got to see the aspect or the mindset of the monster, of Frankenstein, and to see that he wasn't wanted and his thought process, and to see how you would be in that situation, like, because everyone's thinking he's the villain, but really he has an origin story too. He's a person with feelings too, and it was so cool to see that side, and it made me so sad at certain aspects because I'm like, dang, I felt like that before. Like, I get where you're coming from. I don't condone murder per se, but I feel you, Frankenstein. I feel you. This was such a good book. I really enjoyed this. Very short. It was kind of slow at first, I will say, but it picked up really quickly. And once it picked up, it was just fantastic. And there is some old-timey talk, so if you don't like that, just be mindful of that. But in my opinion, it's worth it. The next one up is Educated. Now, this is a memoir. A lot of people don't like memoirs for some reason, but I like them because I like to know that I'm not the only one struggling, or I like to learn from other people. You can always learn something from someone. And this book allowed me to learn so much. This is a memoir by Tara Westover. She was kind of not raised in a cult, but she was raised very uniquely, I'll say. And she went through so much as a child. Had no education, never went to high school, nothing, but still managed to go to Harvard, to Cambridge, to find herself. It wasn't just about her education. It wasn't just about her learning and to be in society, even though she was taught that society was this completely different thing. She was abused. Like, this girl, she went through so much, and just the self-doubt and constantly going back to her abusers, but finally finding herself, finding her own self-worth to know that, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. It was just an astounding story for me. It's a hard read. You're gonna be frustrated, upset, sad, shocked, angry, but I think that it's an important read. You know, some books you just need to read just to help you think clearer in the world. And this is one of them. Last but not least is Black Cake. I know the show already came out and people are loving the show, but I am telling you, if you have not read the book yet, read the freaking book. The book is astounding. This book is about 2 siblings who have basically been estranged for some years, but they come together because their mother passes away. And when she passes away, she leaves these voice recordings that her lawyer said they have to listen to together before they can get her will or go through her will, right? And man, they realize that they have never known their true mother. They have no idea where she came from, what she's been through, how much she's been through, and how much she's sacrificed for her children. This book is about sacrifice, love, family, finding yourself, just miscommunication, not like in a tropey way, but like how you just don't always see someone. You don't always see their struggles and how that can cause rifts in your relationship, that's what happened to the two siblings. And just being able to finally see each other, I just thought it was beautiful. It's not an easy book to read, but it is well worth it. Well worth it. Full of culture and knowledge and ups and downs and love. Not just romantic love, but sibling love and just love in the purest sense of the word. This book left me with so many questions and made me reflect on my own life. I love something that will leave me trying to be a better person, and this book left me with that. So I am done talking your ear off. This was an absolute incredible year for reading, an incredible year for YouTube, and I just want to say thank you so much. Like, you're allowing me to live my dream of reading for fun with people who enjoy my opinions, and this was my first real year in that. Last year we only did it like for 2 months or so, but this year we've grown so much, we've read so much, we've done so much, and I could not be more grateful. I am so grateful and happy for you. You're changing my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So I love you so much. Let's make 2024 even better. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. What the heck? We read 53 books this year, girl. That's crazy. That's crazy. I love all of these books. Please read them. I am not lying to you. I got good taste. Read them. All right, bye.